Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Russell McCutcheon. I'm director of bands in the Sunderman Conservatory of Music at Gettysburg College. I'm the conductor of the Sunderman Conservatory Wind Symphony and of the Sunderman Conservatory Symphony Band. And we've got students from both of those ensembles here with us today. Everybody give us a Zoom wave. Welcome to the chat and to the YouTube session. Indeed, it's an exciting day for us. Of course, we've been in online remote education now since right after our spring break. And one of the things that we've been engaged in is a virtual ensemble commissioning project featuring composer Ryan Williams and a piece titled Mandatory Social Distancing. We've been working on this for a couple of weeks, and just recently, all of our students have submitted their final videos and their audio recordings to the composer. And we're here now with Ryan Williams, who's joining us live here in Zoom. And today he's going to take us through all of the technical aspects of putting together well over, I don't know, Ryan, how many videos would you say you have now? How many are in the hopper?
There are 712 videos right now, and there's still a few more coming in.
My goodness. I can't imagine editing over 700 videos into one project. Well, I'll tell you what, why don't you take it away and just tell us a little bit about mandatory social distancing and how this all came about, and give us a little overview of what this project is.
Sure. So, we chatted a little before. The project started kind of as the dominoes started to fall with, states going into quarantine, lockdown, what have you. Back in early March. The project was started by Jay Sconyers, director of bands at McNeese State University in Louisiana. He called me and said, could we do a virtual wind ensemble? And we're like, no, we can't do that. And as we started to debate all the reasons why we couldn't do it, we realized that we could do it. And so from there, we kind of took off on the adventure of, on one hand, the technical side of it, how are we going to get the word out? How are we going to distribute all the parts that you've received? How are you going to rehearse them and do your best performance to make it worth putting it together? That whole technical side of it. And of course, for me, the composer, to actually compose a piece of music to do all of this with. So that all took place mid-March. And I don't recall exactly when you all received all of your scores and parts. A couple of weeks after that, it was definitely a writing and a composing in a hurry kind of a process to get it in your hands so that you had the chance to work on it. And so for the last about 2 weeks now, parts have been slowly trickling in and accelerating and rushing in and flooding in. And, the official deadline was yesterday, and, some communications and some miscommunications. There's, a few more on the way in, but we're getting where we need to be as soon as we can be there. And so at this point, we talked before about what the piece is and some strategies for you to go ahead with the recording process, how to make it all work and that kind of thing on your end. And today I want to kind of show you sort of what this now looks like back on my plate. As the perennial educator, I always try to find sort of that lesson to go along with. I could just sit here and show you some stuff going on here, but I think the lesson for you guys to take away from when I was an undergrad and gosh, even into my doctorate, if I had to write a paper for my music history class, probably the night before it was due, I just open up Word and start spelling words out, and all of a sudden the paper was done and I would just turn it in. Just kind of go on the fly, get it done, and things always worked out okay for me. I realized coming into this project that there was no fly by the seat of my pants, shoot from the hip. This has to be probably the most organized project I've ever undertaken, just because of the scope of how much I've got to work with on it. In our last session, we talked about the video that I put together with the Blue Stars. With that video, I started into the project once and got a feel for how it was going to come together. And then basically I just deleted everything, started all over again, but still kind of pieced things together as I went and kind of figured it out on the fly. That was a much smaller scale. It was a minute and a half piece of music with only 64 players across just a couple small sections. Very straightforward, short piece of music. That's not what we have here, right? You guys are all now intimately familiar with what this piece is and how it's put together, how it's structured, how your part plays into the bigger whole. It's not just as straightforward as boom, let's put 700 blocks on the screen at once. Nobody can see what's going on, and that's that. So it's like I said, it's a little bit of a bigger undertaking. And so I think, I want to sort of walk you through everything that I'm looking at on my end here and a little bit of the strategy of what I'm doing to organize it and going through the process of putting it together. And, as I said, hopefully I'll get to show you a little bit of actually where it's going to end up, provided my poor little computer doesn't just give up and walk out on me, which is entirely possible. So the last you saw your projects, you had your phone out and you recorded your part and you said, yep, that's good. I'm proud of that one. You went to our Google form and you hit submit. And so something, a little bit of screen sharing here. There we go. So this is what I ended up with on my end. I've got 2 columns hidden, simply just it's links to the Google Docs. Your files went into a Google Drive and got a link to them. So those are hidden just to keep it simple. But we can see the first row at the top here on April 6th, Nicholas Heron from Southeastern Louisiana, one of your band members, submitted his trumpet 2 part. And things kept unfolding and unfolding and unfolding and unfolding and unfolding and unfolding. And at 3:09 this afternoon, Kevin Roundhill, one of your band members from Gonzaga University, submitted his flute 1 part, is the most recent submission that I've got here. And so I've just been trying to make sense of all of these files coming in. So I love data. I'm a data dork and I like to sort things and make sense of data. So this is how I've been looking at it now. Hopefully you're looking at a separate spreadsheet. Yes, no?
Yes, we have a new spreadsheet open now.
Cool. Okay, just making sure the screen share works the way I think it does. So now I'm counting up on the left here how many videos from each of the ensembles. There are several ensembles like you where this is a required part of the project. We need to do something this semester, and required is a dirty word in education. I have to do, but this is band. You got to play in band. You can't really do band and just make it voluntary and whatnot. So, several ensembles like with you, this was a performance that everybody in the ensemble undertook, and you can see some of the numbers. CSUN, California, Northridge, everybody participated there. You guys at Gettysburg, McNeese, our friends who started this adventure. Ohio had 2 ensembles that for the upper required, the second was optional. Arizona's wind ensemble was a requirement. South Carolina's wind ensemble, Wisconsin lacrosse. And then many of them were either optional. We have a couple of high schools that it was an optional thing. And the high schools have been a very different political situation where we are now that's been interesting to understand. Some of the ensembles, where are they? Los Angeles Valley. They're a small college, surprisingly, in Los Angeles. They have many community members that are a part of the ensemble. And so the students at the school submitted the videos, but the community members were optional. So a couple of them did submit, others chose not to. We had a couple situations here in the middle that the directors collected all the videos together, previewed them, and then just submitted a Google folder to me directly. So that was that separate count. And now over on the right, I'm trying to make sense of what this whole thing's actually going to look like. How am I going to get 32 Flute 1 videos to appear on a screen in any semblance of order, 38 Flute 2, and so on and so on. Sadly, there are only 32 tuba parts. I was hoping for at least 70 or 80 of them, but we'll make do with it. The percussion is going to be another challenge to process as we go through here. So that's that step. I just have all this stuff. And so all these videos have been pouring in. My poor little Google Drive has been filling up. I've actually had to upgrade twice. So now I have a terabyte of space on Google servers. And I'm looking forward to pulling all that stuff off of there and just kind of let my whole computer breathe a little bit more. So as all that stuff's been dumping in, let's see, we'll just go to the desktop view. So this is the folder where stuff is dumping. As you upload it and Google realizes a file is there, it dumps into here. And so a couple times a day, I've been having to empty this out so the submission folder wouldn't fill up. The only way I could cap it was 100 gigabytes, and I'm now about 300 gigabytes of video. So I've been emptying it a couple times a day this past week, just to keep space for the more submissions to come in. As all those videos have been coming in, I've been sorting them into a separate folder grouped by the ensembles. And so for you to see your peers, this is the Gettysburg folder. And, on the original, you can see the different formats. Most of you submitted it from your end, what makes sense for a file name. Here's a piece of music, a lot of them with my name as a composer, and you remembered at least to put your name on them. So I renamed every single file, all 700 of them that I received, with your name, your school name, and your part name. My next step after this is to actually forget about the school separation and just have one folder that's nothing but flute 1, one folder is nothing but flute 2, and so on. So I can kind of see what everybody is all at once and understand who is my flute section, who is my oboe section, and so on.
Ryan, it seems like the biggest thing that you have to really think about here is data management. This is, at least this stage of the project, seems like it's much more about being clean with your imports and your file names and file sizes and all that, long before you ever even get to any actual video editing or audio editing or anything else.
Yeah, that's right on the money. And like I said earlier, this project really showed me the importance of that organization. I kind of live a lot of my life as sort of a classic artist that things are messy. Fortunately, you're not seeing this side of my desk, which does not look near as clean as the back side of the room here. Ask my mom. She's only 20 minutes away from you guys. She'll tell you how messy my room was growing up. I've been able to survive with sort of just remembering and keeping track of things in my mind. Just too much here. When Jay and I started the project, we were hoping for 8 or 9 schools, which would result in like 150, 200 videos. Even that would have been a challenge, but I think there's 26 schools are submitting. There's a couple that they just couldn't get things together. It's 26 schools, 31 ensembles, and there's over 700 videos. That the data management's a huge thing. And my big thing is I want to make sure I don't leave anybody out. When I did the Blue Star video, it was easy to keep track of those 64 videos because I knew all those kids. I'd been working with them for months by the time we started doing the video, and I knew, yep, his video, I know her, she's in there. I could just look at it and know got everybody because I know everybody. And sadly, I don't know all of you. I guess I'm going to get to learn you guys a whole lot better over the next week or so, looking at all these videos and editing and everything like that.
Well, we certainly, yeah. Oh, absolutely. We certainly appreciate you taking the time to do this. This is, not only did you compose a piece in a matter of weeks, but all of this work on the back end, I think we're all beginning to see just how big a project this actually is. I am going to kind of turn to everybody here. I'm going to put us in gallery view for a second, just to kind of mention, as I was looking at your spreadsheet, I couldn't help but notice that Gettysburg has 54 videos submitted over 2 ensembles, the Wind Symphony and the Symphony Band. And we're probably one of the smaller colleges and universities in the project with 2,600 undergraduate only. And I think we're doing pretty good there with our 54. So I want to give everybody a Zoom wave and just kind of cheer for ourselves that indeed, that it's a big undertaking, not only for you, Ryan, but also for all of our students. I'm going to ask them a little bit later on, perhaps, what it was like to record some of their video files. And I know some people have done this sort of video recording before, and others, this might have been their first time. And I'm really curious to see about the technical side of things from the students' perspective as well. But before we do that, so going back to you for a moment, tell us a little bit about how this is all going to come together technically. I mean, you mentioned that having 700 musicians on the screen at the same time is going to mean that everyone is, a couple of pixels tall, and I don't think that's probably what you're going to do.
Right. For this project, we did two of these with Blue Stars. The first one was a complete wash, and we're not letting that one see the light of day. We'll just call it the rough draft of all of this. And then the second project, I used a program called Final Cut Pro. If you're a Mac user, you probably know iMovie, which is real simple video editing. Final Cut Pro is used in real movie studios in the film industry for producing real movies. And that's what I used for the Blue Star video that we did publish. In Final Cut, you can look at where the audio is and do some minimal audio editing. But really, a lot of it's just about balance and timing, and that's about it. For this project, with as many streams as there's going to be, I really wanted to really get the audio dialed in a little bit cleaner. That this is the world premiere of this piece of music is a concert that exists on YouTube. So I want the audio to be as tight as I can get with it. So for that, I'm actually doing the audio separately from the video, and I'm using Logic Pro for that. And this is where things might get a little bit furry. So jump in. So
I'm sorry, things are going to get furry. I think we've all enjoyed our pets in our Zoom classes that we've had. I know my cats have had at least one or two starring moments.
The technology might get the better of us here, but hope for the best here. So this is Logic. And so what you're seeing here, all these red boxes side to side, this is my flute one section. And I'm actually kind of at the end of the piece, and you can see the whiter or lighter shades of color here are where the audio is happening on each of these individual parts. And so if you look up and down, you can see through time where the highs and lows match up. And that's where you're playing along with the click track means that everybody's parts are happening at the same time. As we go down through, I'm making each section a different color just to make the visual easier in my mind. I started to put some stuff in here, but as I started to see how much data was coming in, I stopped adding to it until I could organize the data. And I'm probably just going to delete all of this and start all over again. Use this as step one to learn the process, and then redo it all and begin all over again. But you can see each of the instruments is a separate color so that visually I can see it separated. I've had to teach myself how to do a lot of tasks in the software along the way, learned how to group it. So, here, Tuba Friends, we're all grouped together, and click the button and it expands. You can see all the individual takes along the way. So let's see, I'm going to highlight everything. So mute everything out, and now we'll just unmute flute. No, that was everybody again, sorry. All right, so now we'll just unmute the flute one section, and as I pick a player one at a time, you can see the color comes back to them and we can see them. And fingers crossed, I'm going to hit play and see what happens here. So we hear just that flute one part. And so that's what we have with just a couple players in. And what I'm doing to get all the timing, I've also imported, as you're now familiar with, the piano click track from the original export. So this blue at the top is just that MIDI piano sound alone, just so it's a nice, crisp, clear sound. And what I've been doing to line things up is we'll put one player on the spot here. And so play the live part along with the MIDI. So just that seems just so simple enough, but it's get the track in there, cut it, adjust side to side, and a lot of it is then not just going side to side, but zooming way in just to start seeing where things. I'm so far and I don't even have any stuff happening. So there we go. Get zoomed as far in as I can get, and just start to line things up vertically through there. Is the audio coming through enough that you can sort of hear a little bit what's going on?
Oh yeah,
Cool.
I think we're getting good audio, Ryan.
Right.
And so here's a question: are you going to have to 700 videos, over 700 videos? Are you going to have to do that side to side alignment for every video? Is that something that's in your future?
Yeah, so there are a few of the high school members of your band, their directors have kind of previewed some of the files and said, maybe this one we'll just put the video in there, maybe not the audio for that one. So there's some of those that the directors have fortunately pre-vetted for me that have helped out. But yeah, as I add one in, take a listen, get it lined up. There were a couple. There was one file that. So there's been some that like I'll cut the audio and sort of nudge it side to side and break it up to get it to line up. There was one file that I got that was just not even close, and I just had to just mute. So that one's out of it. So there's a couple who the players didn't take it as seriously. They just kind of they threw it together in a day and submitted and whatever. And so those, the simplest thing is to, let's exclude that so that the larger project is good. But yeah, once we start getting into it, it's going to be layering all those audio tracks in there and cleaning them up, get them to line up side by side, one at a time. But what I've been finding, and any clarinet 2 folks in here?
I'm switching back to the main screen. Clarinet 2s. Woohoo!
Cool. Yeah, so clarinet 2, for the most part, you guys lined up faster than anybody else for the few that I've done so far. Kind of shifting some of that side to side, and things just kind of locked in pretty easily. For you folks, my clarinet 2 friends, measure 34. That bar, if you remember that one. I went to that part, lined that one up, and the rest of the track just fell into place. So there is a lot of work for the side-to-side lineup, but really what it comes down to is if you were playing well with the click track and staying with that click track, just committed to excellence throughout, the lining it up is simple. It's just falling right into place that way. So it's a lot of things to line up, but there's not a terrible amount of effort that's got to go into it. A couple of minutes per track. Then a quick kind of scan through, do 5, 6, 7, 8 tracks and listen, see if it's okay. If it's not okay, just looking at the screen, I can see who the culprit is, who's not in time. So it's fortunately the visual side of it is able to do a lot faster proofreading than the oral side of it.
Well, Ryan, I'm looking at our gallery view right now here in Zoom at all of our students, and I can tell you that I know. We submitted intermediate videos and some in-progress videos, and I'm proud to say that I think, you mentioned that some people took it a little bit more seriously or less seriously, and I think it's safe to say that that we attempted to take it just as seriously as any other performance that we might prepare for, and I'm really glad to be able to be a part of this, and I know I can imagine that with 700 parts, you're going to have a lot of variety in there, but I want to say thanks to my students. This is my chance to sort of reach out to them and say thank you to all of the students at Gettysburg College who took your time and effort and energy. Some of you to learn how to do this for the first time, to actually make the videos and to play with a click track and to get your microphone in one place and your headphones in another place. And I do recognize the challenge of that. So I just wanted to take a second, and I wanted to give you let me give you a Zoom. How do I do this? Give you a Zoom clap and an actual clap and the Zoom wave. And I want everybody wave for each other, because this is a heck of a thing. Just the fact that we managed to pull this off is something that I think I'm proud of you for, and I think you should be proud of each other. Ryan, we cannot wait to see what this is going to look like. So how does the video work then? So the audio, you're going to line it up in Logic. I would imagine you might do a little bit of post-processing or noise reduction or something like that. And then you mentioned Final Cut for the video. Tell us about how that's going to go.
The final mix down in Logic. I'll keep it pretty simple. A friend of mine did another kind of one of these collaboration videos with a drum corps that he teaches. And he was showing me a little bit of his process where he's going in and EQing each individual player, EQing the sections, and kind of knocking out the frequency spectrum outside of where your instrument is. And without getting overly technical for some of you who aren't in that world, if you're a low brass player, cutting out all of the really high frequencies just so that all we hear is that trombone range of sounds. And it gets a very, it sounds like a studio processed performance. But what I didn't like is that it's over processed. Part of how we know the difference between a flute and a clarinet is that when you play a concert C on either of those instruments, different parts of the overtone series resonate with that concert C. And which overtones resonate is how we know flute versus clarinet. And if you cut out too many of the frequencies around what's being played, we start to lose that characteristic tone of the instrument. So I don't want to go overboard with too much processing. The one thing that I do need to do is knock everybody's volume way down. So if I just put everybody in at 0 decibels, we're just going to hear nothing but overdriven static for the whole time. So bring all the individual levels down, and then they just compound on top of one another to hear the section volume. And then I'll go through, and once I have a flute track, I'll go on all of your rests and just mute it all out. A couple folks were sure that the microphone picked up. They're counting 1, 2, 3, 2, 2. We don't need to hear that. A couple of big audible breaths happening here and there. There was one player who every time they set their embouchure, it sounded like they were chewing on bubble gum or something like that. So we don't want to hear that in the video. So a little bit of that kind of editing will go in. But aside from that, I want to hear what you guys sound like as live instruments.
You're saying that you don't want to hear us counting rests on the recording. Counting
Right.
rests is important, Ryan. I would suggest as a percussionist myself, I can tell you counting rests is important. But yeah, maybe not out loud.
Right. I use my finger. I'm a tuba player. Numbers get hard, so I use my fingers to count through it. So it is important to count, but not audibly. The same way whenever you watch fifth grade band, you see all the toes tapping all at different tempos, and you just know what that next entrance is going to sound like. So that's the audio process. So now we're heading into video land. For the Blue Star video, I used Final Cut, and to get all of the different focuses from this section to this section took a lot of having to just sort of create ad hoc groups on the screen and then creating animation so that video would float and float. And that process took a fair amount of time to coordinate that, but then also for the computer to churn through what I was asking it to do took a lot for it to happen. Do you guys use, Sibelius or Finale, notation software like that? When you load it up, it takes a few seconds for that software to kind of figure out what you're doing, and then all of a sudden the software appears on your screen. As the computer's chewing through all of that information, it takes some time for it to happen. And so I realized that trying to do all this in Final Cut isn't going to be really what I want it to be, and it's going to take it too hard. So I'm going a different route for it, and I'm using a program called Motion, which is it's not quite as hardcore of the video editing, but the creating a video composite artwork, if that makes sense, is a little bit more geared towards that, where you can do more with animation, creating elements as opposed to just tying together video, if that makes some sense. Kind of like in Logic, where you can use real audio along with MIDI synthesized instruments, sort of that same thing. I'm using real video along with synthesized video. So this program's called Motion. I haven't used it for a lot before, so if there's any level of sympathy from you guys, please God, let there be. How you guys are learning the new task of the recording with the click track and the microphones and all of that process for you. I've been spending the last couple of days teaching myself a whole lot in Motion to make this a successful product for you guys. So
we thank you for that, and we'll give you another. This seems to be the Gettysburg thing. I don't know if this is a nationwide thing, but I'll say thank you for taking the time to do that. I'm actually really curious to learn more about this Motion product, and I think maybe you and I will talk more about that when this is over. But
it's a beast of a program. It can do a lot, but it's kind of one of those things that you need to you got to figure out how to make it happen. I've never been a manual guy. I get a piece of new software and I install it on a computer and I just start banging on it until I figure things out. And maybe I remember where I put the books, but I never open them. And so I've actually had to do some Googling of how do I and figure some things out. But I feel pretty good that my screen sharing hasn't destroyed my computer. So this is what my palette looks like in motion now. Across the bottom here, the blue bars you can see is my timeline for the project. And in the center over here are the different layers to the project. One of the neat things in here is that verticality is the level of superiority, if that's the right word for it. So the higher up something is, it's a higher layer in the video. So if things overlap with one another, if that's more to the top of this list, you see that on top of the other thing. And so a lot of this has been, okay, try some things out, see if I could get it to work. And when it did, save it, go to the next thing. And I've probably saved and deleted and restarted a dozen files over the last few days. My girlfriend's heard several words of frustration of varying degrees of motion picture ratings. As I've been trying some things out, things work, things don't work. I get really excited, then I find out that it wasn't going to work. So this is like version 15,000 since Monday. And so we have, just this little beginning, created this little opening splash is partly stock little, here's something in the library, but then I filled it in, did some editing with it. And so just getting that going, and all this animation stuff is built into what the project, what's available to me in motion. So we have that. And then the next thing that happens, if you're a band having a concert, you need to have a conductor. And so we're, Jay, who started the whole project, is our guest conductor for this. And so these grid lines are just part of the layout. And so Jay's video comes in and, he comes to the podium. And so I've got the MIDI playing in here just for timing purposes, and come up and conducting, and we want to see the band on that way. And so that's kind of how we're starting off here. So on the display here in the middle, you see like these two sets of gray boxes. These are placeholder things that I've got set up. It's a twofold benefit. One, when I, again, going back to the Blue Star video, I had to pull each of the 64 videos in and individually crop and size every video, and really just kind of eyeballing, yeah, they're about the same size, put two videos next to one another and get them to match up sizing. That took a lot of time. And that was 64 videos, not 700 videos. So what these gray boxes are, in the terminology of the program, they're called drop zones or placeholders. So the sizes of these boxes do not change. And what will happen once I start to bring your videos into it, I'll just drop one player into each of those gray boxes. And then within that box, I can size, zoom in and out, and position up and down to get your face in that box, but the size of the box won't change. So that way the cropping and sizing process becomes so much faster. Before I ever get to put your videos in, I'm figuring out how many flute ones I have and flute twos. There will be one of these collections of gray boxes per section. So there'll be a flute one section and a flute two section filling up the whole screen. And what I can do, so I picked the flute one box, which I think is the top left. And over here on the right in my properties, position X-axis side to side. So sorry, band class, we're going back to math class. I'm sorry, it happens sometimes. X-axis is side to side. Y-axis up and down. Z-axis is in and out. So if I grab the Z-axis and pull down on it and make that number bigger, you can see that the boxes are getting smaller. In perspective, they're getting further away from undo. Undo is your friend. Learn Control Z. Control Z saves your butt 99% of the time. I've used a lot this week. So I'll kind of, I'll scale it out so that I can get all 700 of you in this picture by itself. And the neat thing that I have here in Motion, which is very, very different from Final Cut, is that I can create cameras. And so I'll add an object, add a camera. And so now you see down here, it's added camera 1. And if I go to this box up here, I'll pick camera 1 as what I'm looking at. And so now that's the look from camera 1, and I can change the angle to which camera 1 is pointed. And you kind of need to invert axes in your head and how that all works. But you can kind of sort of see there's a perspective to that now. So it's sort of like looking up and over at our flute 1 section rather than the original camera, which is out in front of everything. So let me delete that, and we'll go back to the active camera. I don't want to create too many headaches for myself. So what my plan is for this is that once all of these boxes are positioned out in space in this 3D environment in front of us, I'm just going to create new cameras, and then the video will cycle from one camera to the next, just like on a movie set. There are cameras all over pointing at different actors, different parts of the stage that are important. And so I've got a rough plan of what I want to do. So I think I'm going to start off by showing the low reed section: bassoons, bass clarinet, tenor sax, bari sax. And so I'll create a camera that's pointing at my low reeds. And then when the upper woodwinds come in with be-da-da-dum, I'll come over to my oboes, clarinets, and a new camera will point at the oboes, clarinets. So this way, I don't need to create any animation of all of this video. I can simply just have cameras that point from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. And I can composite this entire project before I ever lay any of your video into it. I did a quick export today. As the piece unfolds in different sections, the different sections of the piece happen, the background color imagery will change. And so I did an export of simply just the background imagery in this one static shot. And that export took about an hour on draft level quality. So I think once I put 700 videos in here and have all the camera work, I'm probably going to hit export and then ignore my computer for probably a solid day at least for it to chew through all of this information.
Ryan, one of the things, I'm sorry to jump in, but one of the things I was going to just say is I think the way that you're approaching this with using the idea of everybody on stage, I mean, thinking of the screen as a stage, and everybody's on stage the whole time, and then you have different cameras that are focusing on different things. I think it's really similar to the way that we attend concerts, that everyone's on stage, and as an audience member, sometimes you're looking at the whole group, and sometimes your attention gets focused on a section or on a soloist. And I think that's a really unique way of thinking of this. When I was first imagining it, I was thinking more in the line of like video editing, where you're going to be punching in and out and having one group, play one group featured at a time. But I think this in some ways is a little bit more organic and a little bit more, I don't know. Students, we haven't heard from our students for a second. Let me take a second, and I just want to invite them to chime in at some point about everything that you've heard so far, or if there are any questions so far. I don't know. Do you agree? Is this? I think it seems like a really organic way of thinking about it.
It's one of the nice things is that it does create a little bit of an organic nature, whether it's at a concert live or if you're watching a live stream of a real concert where they've got cameras set up that pull out. But also the next layer that I'll show you in a moment here is that I also get the chance to add a little bit of drama to it with the visual background, which is going to change throughout the piece. And I actually had a friend of mine from the color guard world help me with some of the colorization ideas. And I sent him the draft of it, and kind of he said, that makes a big difference. And I said, yeah, it's weird to think that the visual can make the music that much more dramatic. We just kind of laughed about the marching band aspect of it. So yeah, there's this beautiful organic nature, and sort of the necessary beast of organizing this much stuff has also created this benefit to it. So please, throw some questions my way. We've talked about a bunch so far. Anything you're wondering about the process or the flow of things?
I think Amanda Harold had a question. Amanda, what have you got to ask?
Yeah, so I recently had the experience of actually performing in a like virtual concert band where we did Holst's Second Suite, and one of the things, because the person running the project often gave us updates on how things were going, and one of the things she talked about a lot, because there's about 255 musicians, was the difficulty with placing everyone, and also I think her computer crashed a lot with that many people, which it's gonna happen. But I really do like how you're formatting us to fit that fit like a stage, because with her she sort of had us in sections. In the most part she tried to, but towards the end, if like someone missed something, they'd get sort of plopped like next to like a tuba or something like that. So I think it's interesting, your detail.
It's the Blue Star project. Really, I learned a lot doing that. In that case, we had somebody who sent their video late, and so I had this great, well-defined cluster of baritones here and baritones here. And then there's one baritone in the middle of all the trumpets and the mellophones. And like, dude, like the deadline was yesterday. Come on. So this way, by knowing how many people that I need to have to start with, I can organize the screen to have all of those, have all the boxes there. And then I can start to place everybody, with a plan in mind and know that everyone's going to go in that spot throughout. The other issue with the Blue Star project is, as I had to add more people, all of a sudden I had to go and re-edit all of the other video clips to get them all changed around the sizes. And it was just, one stumbling block after the next. By doing it this way, with sort of creating these placeholders, I can get everything in place, low impact on the computer. And really, once it's time to put your videos in, I'll place your video in and get you lined up in time, and then everything else is set, ready to go. So organizing everything, it makes a big difference, really simplifies that way. Chloe.
Yeah, Chloe Doherty is one of our clarinetists and principal player, and Chloe.
Hi. I wanted to ask about if you're going to do anything with like tonation, or like how you're going to get everybody to match, because we come from different places. Obviously, we're all trying our best to be in tune with each other. If there's kind of like issue or something, are you going to like have to go through, every video and find like what's the problem? Like, how do you approach that?
So that's the beauty of, and again, I keep talking about the Blue Star project, but it's a very informative project. By you guys playing with the click tracks and playing along with that MIDI audio, I've got in my Logic project, I'm probably going to make up half of these numbers, but pretend I'm giving you real information. 6 or 7 flute 1, a half a dozen flute 2, probably 15 clarinets 1, 2, and 3 combined. A couple of oboes, 1 tenor sax, a bari sax, a couple of horn 2 and a couple of horn 4, couple trombone 2, 1 and 2, bass trombone, euphonium, tuba. Probably about 30 or 40 parts already lined up in time, and the tuning is actually, it's good. It's better than passable. It's better than acceptable. Is it as flawless as it would be were it the Wind Symphony on stage together, getting yelled at and getting glared at by Dr. McCutcheon when you miss an entrance? Not quite that perfect, but if I were to just export what I had and send it to you, you wouldn't be embarrassed to share that and say, I'm a part of this ensemble. It's, I don't want to say it's perfect, but I haven't had to adjust any intonation. I haven't had to mess with auto-tune. And I really
you're saying this is not going to be a T-Pain Cher production?
I really hope it's not. That over EQing and auto-tuning, it sounds like it came out of a digital machine, not 700 band kids who want to play together. And so I'm pretty grateful that because your attention to detail in your performances, and you're practicing and listening to what's happening in your ear, you're just good musicians, and you're playing in tune with your ensemble, which happened to be an MP3 of a computer when you did your performance. But the result is, by everybody performing to a high level, I don't need to do a whole lot with manipulating your pitch centers, because you did that correctly, because you're a great band kid. So that, really good question. So far, the odds have been in my favor. Hopefully it stays that way, and little parachutes come out of the sky at night and keep things going in a good direction for me. But so far so good. Any other questions?
We're throwing the floor open at this point. I just shifted back to the see everybody view. Somebody's got something. Now would be a time to jump in.
Hi. Thank you, first of all, for doing this. It was a really enjoyable project in a great way.
Be sure and introduce yourself there, Jenna.
Hi, I'm Jenna, and I'm the principal saxophonist for the ensemble. I just was curious about the parts where you feature a couple of players. Are you gonna go through and listen to people and have it done that way, or you just kind of feature everybody who did the recording? Just curious.
I've been going back and forth on this one, and there are a lot of ways that I want to give everybody the spotlight, but solo's a solo. Mm-hmm. And so I'm planning, I think there's just the two moments, the clarinet solo and the sax solo in that middle section. I'll take a listen to all of the submissions in there and see what I've got, and see what the best ones are. If there's one that stands out clearly, we'll go with that one. If it's a toss-up, I might come back to your directors and give them a little bit of a blind judging audition for it, and have them let me know which one they think is the best one, and not let them know who's who. We all know that band directors play favorites, especially when it comes to your own bands.
Hey, now I resemble that. I resent that.
So yeah, we'll try to make it as fair as possible, but definitely would love to still give a little bit of that love to a soloist for the video as we go through here. So yeah, I will take the time to make sure to listen to each of those solos and see who really is making the best out of it. There's a couple videos where the player actually just left out that phrase. They just chose, they didn't want to have themselves have that pressure on them. Others, it'll be in there. So we'll see what we end up with, and see who our best players are going to be for that.
Cool. Thank you.
Well, Ryan, I know that, and students, we do have time for a couple of more questions. So if anybody has one, use that raise hand feature, and we'll make sure that you get called on next. I just wanted to say, from my perspective, that I know, we did everything that we could to make sure that you got a really good, it's the old, I'm not a computer scientist, but I know we have some computer scientists here in the room, and, it's the old garbage in, garbage out. We tried to make sure that you had really good input, and I think that getting really good input, hopefully we'll get some really good output, and we're certainly looking forward to this project. Now, there's going to be a video featuring all of the ensembles, over 700 musicians, but you're also doing per school videos and per institution videos, aren't you?
That's my hope, at least for you folks, where you've got the full ensemble represented. There's a handful that it's only about a dozen players or so. I'm probably not going to go that far, or for South Carolina, they just said just do one. So I think I might do the a Gettysburg video and incorporate all from Gettysburg together in that video. The first step's going to be to put together the big video, so we get that big premiere out there. That'll be premiered via YouTube, via my composer Facebook page. So the directors will get a heads up the night before the video is going to be released. But it'll be out there, and the Facebook page will be the way to get at it. And please find it and share it and all of that. And then, as that settles down and I've got some time, my suspicion is once I have the big video done, I should be able to resave this, take the same project, save as Gettysburg, go in, delete everybody who's not Gettysburg, do some resize, but leave all the camera work there. I think it'll work that quickly, that smoothly, and be able to turn that back out and get the Gettysburg video. Should be a quick and easy, put it together and get it turned out that way.
Ryan, let me ask you one last question here that I have before we let you go and say goodnight. You mentioned a little bit about the publicity and how this is going to be released. I know that YouTube has a premieres feature. And I also know, of course, Facebook is a big way that we're promoting this. You've got over 50 people here who all have social media accounts. And I would bet each one of these 50 people probably have 50 friends on their social media accounts. So that's, we're talking about exponential growth. So what can our students do to help promote this video project?
I think, just sharing is the big way to get. I mean, that's what social media is all about, is that you're able to share with your friends. I'm excited to put the video out there, but I'm excited to give you, the band students, the opportunity to perform for an audience. And that audience now is a worldwide community that are connected to all of you through Facebook. Like I said, it's going to premiere online. It won't be just a surprise, but I'll have it planned ahead. Once I get everything all taken care of and the export actually finishes without crashing. If it does crash, Amanda, I'm going to come and yell at you. You're putting that hex on me. Once I get the video completely exported and it happens and I can upload it to YouTube and that's all done, then I'll let your directors know that the premiere is coming out. I'll post through my composer Facebook page what the premiere is going to be. Give you like the night before kind of a notice sort of a thing. Leading up to that, Jay and I were talking about maybe doing a little bit of a teaser trailer. Just he and I doing a couple brief comments, put a video out there, might do that the day before. Just a little bit about what the project is and what it means and what we wanted to do for all of you, the band students who don't get to have the regular concert. So we might put that out there. When you see that hitting out there, then you know that the video is going to be pretty close to coming out. It should be exciting. So far, what I have is I've got all the colorization and the animation throughout the video, and the timing with the MIDI click track throughout the video is organized. And it's kind of exciting the way that it unfolds, and sort of, the moods of the music and the energy of the music is reflected in sort of this background, abstract color animation that comes along with it. So I'm hoping that you're all excited by what you see as the final product, and that at the end of the day, that you're proud to be a part of this project and to be alongside 700 other band students from around the country.
Ryan, I think it's fair to say that we are incredibly proud to be part of Mandatory Social Distancing, the virtual ensemble project. I think that we want to, first of all, thank you for all of your time and effort in creating this composition and in doing this editing. We want to thank Dr. Jay Sconyers of McNeese State University for heading all this up. Students, I've got you in gallery view. Big thanks to everybody. Woo!
Yeah, and thank you all for the hard work. I've spot checked videos along the way, and it's all been fantastic. There haven't been anybody that I've hit play and been like, oh my gosh. Everybody's been great. Thank you all for the work. As a composer, it's a treat to have real people take that sheet of paper and turn it into music. Music isn't music until it's sound. What's on paper is just the recipe for the meatloaf. It doesn't taste like meatloaf until you cook it. And for you guys to take that recipe card and turn it into a real sounding object, for me, it's an honor. Thank you for the effort to learn the part, to perform the part, and to perform it to such a high level, to put it together for this project. That's really, every level of this is such a thrill for me. It's humbling to have your efforts go into something like this. So thank all of you.
Thanks very much to you, composer Ryan Williams, the Sunderman Conservatory Wind Symphony, and the Sunderman Conservatory Symphony Band. Thanks very much, everybody.